In this video we're going to go ahead and set up this tailwheel gear. Let's see, I want this to be the top and this to be the bottom. Alright. So what we're going to do, if I can grab my glasses real quick. Can't see nothing. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to sink this length of piano wire into the gear right to about there. And so we want to set the bend just outside of there, probably here. I can't see that. Can you see that? I can't see that. Let's see if I thought I had a pencil out here. I don't. I have this guy. I don't know what he's going to do. Let's find out. Are we there? Well, he ain't going to do nothing either. So, and I don't have a pencil, so we're just going to wing it like I do. So we're going to mark it with our thumb nail right here. And we're going to grab this with one of my artillery pieces. Let me come to the inside of this. It'll be easier to bend it from the long end than from the short end, if you know what I mean. Let's give that a nice rip, right about 45 or so. I think that's about right. Alright, so we're going to come out of the gear roughly here and go up into the fuselage. Let's see, roughly this angle. Let's call this straight up and down. So this would be the angle of our tail wheel, roughly. And that looks about right. Let me give it. I'm going to give it just another little bend here. Just sharpen it just a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then I want it to go up into the airplane. Where are we? This way. I want it to go up into the airplane, you know, a little ways. Give it enough surface area there to get some decent adhesion. And another piece of artillery to cut this off. So let's say right about here. This is pretty heavy gauge piano wire. She's sturdy. Oh man, that is, yeah. Alright, well, it's about as good as it's going to get for that. Let's try this now. Where she goes. Okay. So there's that. So we'll drop the one end into the gear and the other end up into the airplane. Where is my drill? Here it is. So I want to come right through the center of the top, since that'll give us the most material to sink the part into. Get that nice adhesion with the glue. Yeah, we get it right in there. How deep is that? It's not quite far enough. Or maybe it is, I don't know. There we go. Alright, and then we'll sink this in here. About to there. A little bit less. Check the fit and the angle. So if that's going to go straight up into the airplane, that's going to give us a roughly that angle, which looks about right. So I just need to first set this piece. There we go. Yep, that'll work. So I'll put a nice bead of glue onto the on the piano wire. Again, I wanted this end to be, this side to be the top. No, this side to be the top. Go back down that way. just going to run this in and rotate it proper angle. Leave enough of it exposed that the bend is outside of, so it doesn't create a conflict with the part bumping against the airplane before we get the depth where we want it. And just make sure we get a nice 90-degree angle to the wheel. We don't want it sitting in there, you know, crooked like. Okay, so that looks good. That looks about right. That's about 90 degrees to the wheel. Yep. Okay. And then I'm going to run the hole for the attachment point, probably right into this former right here. We probably run it right in the middle of it. Let's do that. And again, we're not going to be gluing the tail wheel in. We're just locating things and pre-drilling the holes so that when the time comes, the airplane's all surface prepped, and probably even after it's completely painted, I can paint that tail wheel housing, you know, by brush if I need to, or I can spray that part with the wheel masked off. Make sure I'm getting this straight up and down. Oh yeah. Alright, so we should be good on that. Let's just see how that looks. So let's get that tail wheel in, and she's going to be right about there, which is probably going to be okay. And as I said, I was going to take and cut two shorter lengths from this part and just run them up parallel to each other from about this point on the housing. So they need to be higher than I thought initially, so that's fine. Now I can mark and drill those two holes and cut that part and get that situated. And in a minute we'll have the tail wheel cut and established. What I think I'll do is add a small ring of the aluminum here. I'll just take here this finer size of tubing and just cut a little 1/8 inch piece of, you know, ring of that and apply it right to the top of the hole so that it looks like a fitting, you know. And there's that. Okie dokie. So that's pretty much how we're going to do the gear. The hole's drilled in the right spot. The piano wire fits into it. And now I'm just going to mark and drill for the two shorter lengths here and here. And we're going to set those at a slight tailward angle. So these will come in at roughly this angle. Maybe a little less drastic than that. And I'm going to wrap them with solder to replicate or to simulate the look of a spring. And the reason for that is that that would be the shock absorbing aspect of the tail wheel part. So let's cut off this section. Alright, and we need two lengths about that long. We'll go a little bit longer since most of this is going to disappear into the fuselage. Alright, there's one. And there's the other one. Okay. About the same length. Good enough. Okay. And now we'll just drill for that. Let's see, we want it to be at a slight angle here, so let's do that. Let's drill it at an angle. Okay, we don't want to go all the way through the part. I think I was starting to do that. We just want to drill into that wood that I put into the center of these plastic parts here that are. Alright, get in there. Right. These can be hogged out a little bit on the plastic. There we go. And there you go. And these should slide right in. No, not quite. Let's just clean that out a little bit more. There we go. Okay. I don't want to get carried away, but there we go. That ought to do something. Yeah. Yeah, that's one. And here's the other. So we want that little bit of an angle before we drive them in. There we go. So that ought to work. And again, these will be wrapped with solder to replicate a spring. And then this part will go through a small ring of aluminum tubing. Come on now. Okay. So probably I want a little bit less of an angle on these so that they fit into this swell here, this cutout. That's a little bit on the long side, but I'll just I'll insert them a little straighter, more of a 90-degree angle to this. Should put them in inside of the swell. Okay, and we're good. That should be about how the landing gear is going to look. All right, and so I'll fix that now. Let's drop these straight in. I thought they needed a little angle, but I think I drilled down too far this way. I probably should have been higher on the part, but that's all right. Not going to re-drill them. I'm just going to set them in more to 90-degree angle here. And again, I'm not going to glue these in until I get them wrapped. And let's see how that looks. I think that'll be better. And there it goes. Up in there. That's almost in the swell. It's close enough, you know, for me. And I can move this hole forward. I might, just because now I've got the extra support of these two trailing arms. I can probably get away with just sliding this up and filling that hole. I think I'll do that. I think I'll put this more closer to the front of the opening, and then that should put the suspension supports into, you know, well inside of this area. Yep, we'll do that. All right, so anyway, here we go. This is how we do stuff. You know, you test and you fit and you check and you do it, you look again, and you know, if you cut a hole in the wrong place or make a slot or cut a slice in the wrong place, you just fill it and sand it and on you go. All right, so that's our tail wheel as far as where I need it to be for now. And again, I'll be able to move that hole forward and position that where I want it. Okie dokie. Next steps. Still filling and sanding on the wing, hopefully preserving the lighting connections. And these wires over here are obviously far too long. When the time comes to fit the wing, you know, I'll be cutting them somewhere. They won't be way out here, but they won't be. One of the problems I've run into in the past with wiring is I tend to cut it too short and not leave myself enough room to work. These can't be so short that as I'm making the connections, I'm, you know, knocking the wing around. But I don't want them so long that they're interfering with the fitment of the wing to the to this fuselage structure. In other words, nothing. There can't be anything between these parts of the fuselage and the top surface of that wing. Otherwise, it's not going to sit straight. So Just have to be mindful of that. We're going to position and glue the wing. Okay, and so there will be some shortening of this wiring before assembly goes too far. And then I have to build up the tail and get these parts installed, and then the aircraft is going to need several more overall coats of filler and sanding sessions to get rid of the wood grain and imperfections that I have in the surfaces. For now, it's not quite ready for paint. It's actually quite a ways away from being ready. But we're going to build the airplane up. I am going to have the tail installed, the wing installed to the airplane. We'll leave the nacelles off, but with that basic structure, fuselage, tail section, and wing, and then those fairings will be applied. And then I'm going to start layering on the spackle and sanding the airplane as a whole, basically. And then once I'm satisfied that it's prepped for paint, the engine nacelles will go on, and those will be sealed to the wing, so there are no gaps. And then at that point, we'll start looking at spraying primer. Get the primer on so we can see better if there are any imperfections we're missing. Primer tends to show up, it reveals stuff that you may not be able to see because of the light color of the filler and the light wood and the way light itself reflects on those surfaces. Once you get a bit of flat filler or flat primer on the airplane, you can really see some of the things, flaws you might be missing otherwise. It's a sandable primer. It's the stuff from Tamiya. It's one of the best products, for modeling that there is. Whether it's plastic modeling or this, it works the same. It's a sandable primer, and once you polish that finish of that primer with the 400 or 500 grit or 800 grit sandpaper, it still adheres to paint. So you lay your colors on that and your sealer, and you get a nice finish with that primer. So it's a top product. I consider this to be, a necessity if you're modeling. You need to be laying this primer down.